they had to read every single message that went across their network. And if there was a threat to life, they had to intervene. And as the number of Anom phones out there grew from 100 to 1,000 to 12,000, reading all those messages became really hard. The FBI had dozens and dozens of agents working around the clock reading messages. And those threats to life, they started to multiply.
So what would happen is that the FBI would detect a threat to life and they would mitigate it somehow. They would warn the authorities or otherwise act, and then that one would be stopped, thankfully. But the criminals would start asking themselves, how the hell did the authorities know this? How did they know we were going to murder this person? And rather than suspecting the phones, they suspected each other. And then you have another threat to life because they want to kill who they believe is a snitch or a rat. And it started to create this never-ending cycle of violence and paranoia. All the while, the FBI is intercepting more and more messages. It has to call in more agents from around the country. Please come to San Diego and help us dig through this information. It's too much. It's absolutely getting to the point where the FBI are finding it very, very difficult to maintain momentum or tempo on the amount of data that's coming in.
Yeah. In the end, what led Anom to shut down was its own success. 2.5 years in, it just became too unsustainable, too dangerous for the FBI. So the FBI and their many foreign counterparts at this point decide on an end date.
Instead of deciding a different way to do stuff with it.
On June 7th, 2021.
They followed the sun. The Australian Federal Police and state agencies there, they launched their own raids and then held their own press conference.
Gentlemen, it's good to have you with us today.
Saying that we have messages from Anom. As the sun moved over to Europe, European officials did basically the same thing. They launched their own raids with drones and SWAT teams and everything you would expect. And then they held
Distinguished guest,
a press conference in Europol, also announcing their involvement.
This law enforcement operation is exceptional.
Until eventually, the sun got over to the west coast, to San Diego.
These international arrests and the U.S. charges were possible because of a San Diego-based FBI investigation like none other in history.
And the U.S. Attorney's Office there, they announced that the FBI and U.S. authorities have been running Anom for essentially its entire existence.
Thank you all.
This was a big moment, the big reveal. The FBI and their counterparts had been running what Joseph calls the largest sting operation in history.
Anom resulted in more than 1,000 arrests. There was something like 150 threats to life mitigated. They seized tons upon tons of cocaine, methamphetamine, and other drugs, weapons as well. It really did generate a massive impact on the criminal syndicates that were swept into Anom.
One important note. No one in the US was arrested because of Anom. Remember, Andrew never got permission from the higher-ups at the Department of Justice. To this day, he still finds this disappointing. But he says this operation, it was about more than arrests. It was about sowing doubt in the minds of organized crime. Sowing doubt in the very idea of an encrypted phone. See, authorities had not just shut down Phantom Secure and their main competitors, they had also pushed users into what turned out to be an FBI front. And that kind of left organized crime with a conundrum. Who do you turn to now?